Okay, it's 3 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the work session to order. Dr. Smith is here in place of Dr. Maher, who's out sick, and
Dr. Knoll.
or Dr. Knoll. God. Wow, we were always Smith. Oh yeah, Smith.
I'm taller now.
You know, everybody's Smith at my age if I can't think of their names, so.
That's okay.
Hey, buddy. That's you. All right, well, Jamie, you want to go ahead and get us started?
Absolutely. And thank you, and the presentation this afternoon by Joni Davis, and Joni will go through, and obviously, as you know, Joni works and leads a program that is dedicated to provide food and food services to thousands of students in the Sioux Falls School District, the Sioux Falls community, and her staff work diligently to be able to do that. And for many of those children, that is the meal they have that sustains, and often the breakfast that goes along with that. She's here today to go through and give you an overlay and understanding of the child nutrition services. So Joni will go through that and present that information.
Okay. I would like to introduce to you that we have interns that join us from various universities around the nation, of individuals who have their masters or working on their masters and doing their internship so they can sit for their test for the registered dietitian. And so Keith Thompson is here these 3 weeks working in their management rotation. So we told him you'd be kind. All right. Well, what I wanted to be able to do is have an opportunity to just update you and share some things this afternoon and see what kinds of questions you may have about what we're doing for us as a district with child nutrition services. And we do too work from goals. We have our district mission that we're implementing all the time, and we also have these that I've listed here, and you can look at those on the screen. First of all, certainly wanting customers to be happy and enjoy their meals. That is truly nutritious and safe, yes, but happy, contented customer. This truly is a goal. And specifically at the last one for today, we want to be sure that we're implementing the goals and the specifications and desires of the board to our customers across the district. That's critical to us, that we're following all the same leads and all the directions with the things that we're doing, food related, education-wise, etc. So that we find this very powerful to have an opportunity to share that and make sure, again, that we're on the same page. Everybody's striving for the same goals. An overview for child nutrition services sometimes stuns people, but we do have 150 staff members who are there every day working diligently to do the very things that Dr. Knoll just shared. We do have one consulting dietitian who we work with, something that we added a couple of years ago for our program and needs that we have. We do 22 elementary schools, 5 middle schools, 3 traditional high schools, and 2 specialty high schools, in terms of the buildings that we're working with on a daily basis. Some statistics we thought you might find fascinating, that overall in our health inspections that are done twice a year by the Sioux Falls Health Department, we have an average of 99.8% out of 100 points for a score. So feel safe and secure to eat anywhere. We're very, very proud of that. Our scores also get placed on the same website as all the restaurants and other businesses in town on the Sioux Falls Health Department website. So you can go in and do some comparison if you wish in regards to how we stack up to Minerva's or wherever your favorite place is, okay? We also are very pleased to say that we too take education very seriously, and that's certainly a dictate that we pick up from the district, being an educationally based program. We want to be sure that our staff members are attaining information they need to do their jobs, and also additional information so they too can move on. We hate to say or move up is what I would rather say in terms of internal promotion and that kind of thing. But we do have 74% of our staff out of that 150 who are Serve Safe certified, and that's an 8-hour course and a test that is required to attain that certification. Businesses in town have to have one person, and maybe you've noted the sign when you've gone somewhere and it'll indicate who's been Serve Safe certified. Well, 75% of our individuals, about 65 of them, have just completed a round we did on October 12th. And so we're very excited about that. So our managers and our cooks all definitely have Serve Safe, and then our production kitchen at the Food Service Center is the other place that we target to get the greatest number of people because they're doing major production. But I have many others from the other schools who by choice wish to do that, and we certainly support that and make that happen for them. We also have 6 certified chefs. and those are individuals who have actually taken the coursework and the test to be certified. So an interesting test. You get to debone a chicken and all kinds of fun stuff. And so they've actually done that. And those individuals are 3 cooks currently employed with us, 2 managers, and the child nutrition assistant are the individuals who did attain that certification status. So we've tried to acknowledge that and have people in their white coats at some key events so people can realize that's something that we've attained and we strive for. 48% of our staff are CPR certified. And we find that very critical for us in our business because we're around kids at breakfast and lunch. And lots of things can happen that may need that expertise. And our district does require that 2 people at a building be CPR certified. So this is over and above. Our child nutrition managers and another person, and a lunchbox EA and another person who are directly from child nutrition, if you will, are certified. And so we're very pleased about that. And so I've indicated to you that all the lunchbox EAs are certified. That's 100%. And then we've attained it, another person at each of those sites also. In terms of the School Nutrition Association, I just really would like to share with you how we really try to tie into the educational CEU goals that we have for teachers and other individuals within the district, and we do too. There's an association we can belong to, which we do, that provides that professional information and exposure to things, but really wanting just to thank you that you support in-servicing, that you support our staff being able to attain this kind of status within our realm, because that's very important to us. The CEUs and that idea that we're trying to educate and help people with their current knowledge base and increase it in any way that we can, which ultimately is going to help all of us, especially as we try to model our program and be a lab of learning, if you will, for food for kids and families. Out of the 63 people who are members to that association, 13 are certified, which again means another level that they've attained. They've actually received coursework, that Serve Safe that I talked about, as well as nutrition, as well as a management course in a period of hours that are required that they can take and then try or send in, if you will, or be certified. And so there's additional CEUs and things to keep that certification status up. But just wanted to share with you that we try to replicate or model the very things that we see with our cohorts in the certified section in terms of how important that is for us. So we really do appreciate the support that you provide to do that. Then our child nutrition employee staff overall might be interesting to see that 150 people broke down into 49 are at the food service center. And that's a 5 to 5 operation, which many people don't realize that we are there that early and we're there that late. The traditional high schools, giving you just the number, how many staff people are employed at each building. The specialty high schools listed there, Axtell and New Tech. Then for the middle schools, same idea, just wanting to give you an idea. I don't know if you've ever thought about, gee, how many people does it take to do those meals at those different sites? Then for our high schools, I wanted to go in a little more detail to let you know that what numbers are, what we're serving, and sometimes that's a surprise because the assumption is maybe less kids are eating at the high schools. Well, yes, that's true. As they get older, they don't always tend to join us. But look at the numbers in terms of what we're serving. At Washington, over 200,000 meals. At Lincoln, almost 180,000 last year. Roosevelt, 235,000. So yes, we have kids that join us, and we're very excited about that. Now, the other piece I put on here for you to look at is something called meals per labor hour. And it ties into what I showed you about the number of people working at a school. So there's no guesswork in terms of how we staff, and sometimes never knowing what board members hear or people in the audience about someone not having enough help or there's not enough people. Well, we use the standard meals per man hour formula across the district in terms of looking at the number of meals that a site serves and how many hours of labor there are at that site. And then you do a division kind of thing and come up with a number. And what I would have you pay attention to or look at for me, please, is the meals per labor hour. What that would tell you is that amongst those 3 high schools, that's how equally or how close they are to staffing. So 19, 19, and 20, and that's really close because it takes, our staff is in 4-hour increments, if you will, for staff, and so that starts to determine if you need another person or you don't. But I just feel that we've worked so hard to make sure that that question is removed from our staff. That with negotiations and just our caring, empowering staff, helping them know that we try to be very upfront and aware of what's being worked. Now, the calculation, there's a way, and again, formulas to figure out breakfast, a la carte, catering, teachers' meals, all those things get figured in to come up with that meals per man hour. So we try to look at everything to help substantiate the numbers or the most staff that we can have at a building. Here is for the middle school. So again, you may be surprised, 230,000 meals at Memorial. Edison, 160,000, 176 at Patrick, 159 at Whittier, 203,000 at McGovern. And if you'll just glance, you can see again, I've done the meals per labor hour there also, and you can see how close it is. Now, if we have a bit of a concern how we want to be sure that we justify the staff that we have, there are some things that we've done that you may not be aware of. But for example, at Edison, they are doing meals for Teachwell, which used to be East Dakota. So we have a site, it's operating, functioning. They're getting the call, how many breakfast and lunch do they need at that site on a daily basis, and so we prepare that and transport that over. And it helps justify that staff. Then we have McGovern, who are doing meals for New Tech and Axtell Park, the same way, a way to help justify the staff so that we have the people there to do what we need to do. But they are putting those meals together on a daily basis, breakfast and lunch. Then here's elementary. So overall, 1,600,000 lunches coming out of the food service center. Breakfast, 300,000. Meals per labor hour is 30 there. So if you've kind of thought, and I've shared with you what it's been at the other sites, you may be thinking, well, 30, wow, should be. We're talking about a satellite system, a production kitchen that's working on quantity, and that's what you would want to see, that those labor hours, then you're getting more meals for the number of hours that people are working. And so that's very positive for us to see. Then with early childhood, you might be surprised looking at those numbers. The breakfast in the early childhood program are actually a snack that happens. There's 2 sessions of early childhood kids. They both get the same snack. We title it breakfast, but it's a snack. And so that's a little bit of the increase there. Summer program, just giving you an idea, over 18,000 lunches last summer. After school snacks are Kids Inc. And so people are often surprised to see that we do over 100,000 snacks on a daily basis for the sites that all participate in Kids Inc. Now, sure.
Program you have, is that just summer school, summer climb, or is that truly our summer come to these locations, we'll provide you lunch?
Good question. Actually, it's calculated both because we operate the summer program at those climb high sites. And that's been tremendous because we get a breakfast count and a lunch count from those students. So it's really been a very positive partnering of events so that we have a site, anybody can come there, but we also have the advantage that those kids are there to eat with us also. So they do get calculated in as a summer site count.
Thank you.
Yep. Now with the participating programs, just to share with you that we participate in all the USDA programs possible, except for special milk. Special milk, you can't have lunch programs to offer a special milk program. Many years ago, people would get paid reimbursement for milk breaks. And you could do that even if you had a lunch program and you had milk breaks later, but you can't. So we do the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, Child and Adult Daycare Program, which surprises individuals sometimes, the Summer Food Service, Commodities, and After School Snack Programs. They're all, each of them, individual USDA programs. With the National School Lunch Program, that's where the community eligibility provision comes in. We have to offer free and reduced meals, but as a district, we've gone that next step and tried to work with the community eligibility provision that's out there to try to have sites that students are not charged meals, free and meals for everyone. And so that's, for example, Hawthorne, Terry Redland, Lowell, Horace Mann this year, Axtell Park. And that's based on a percentage and very specific in terms of who the kids are or where the numbers come from. And it's called a direct cert. And so I've just listed for you the programs that help get those numbers are SNAP, so what used to be food stamps, homeless, documentation, if you will, foster child, a program that is food distribution on the reservations. If somebody participates in that, it has their numbers. TANF, which is the Assistance to Needy Families, are all the programs that are counted to come up with the numbers for the Community Eligibility Provision Program. And I would share that with you because people always have an interest. How can my school be that way? And so we spend a lot of time pulling the figures together for that. School breakfast, this is where our breakfast in the classroom does come there. We do have breakfast in all schools, so from elementary to high school, which is really exciting. And we do have kids, as you saw in numbers, that are joining us. But we do have 3 sites that we started as Community Eligibility Provision Schools, breakfast in the classroom. And then we have one this year we're piloting that is not a CEP school. That would be Cleveland. And so I have a slide here we'll see in a moment that gives you an idea of how that's going for us. The child and adult daycare program, we do have that. We feed infants through 12-year-olds. And sometimes that's interesting for people to realize that Scarborough is under us for meals. Those meals come from the food service center and get sent out. But that means we have formula and parade vegetables, baby food, baby fruits, all those kinds of things, rice cereal that all go out, as well as the VOA daycare at Axtell Park for student parents. And so early childhood goes through that program also, but that's something that we do. So we feed kids really truly from almost birth, because they come very small age, all the way through 12th grade. And Kids Inc. you're familiar with as being an after-school program. The last thing I'd focus, 2 things yet here, is the fresh fruit and vegetable program. That's a program where we have participated at elementary schools. Is the only place it can be. Has to be fresh fruits and it has to be fresh vegetables. And we have 17 sites that participate in that daily. And then commodities. It's important, and we have a slide we'll take a look at next that tells you why it's important that we participate in the USDA programs. It's a source of revenue. We have $900,000 that we have to spend. And that's a calculation based on per pupil participation rate. And for us, it's been tremendous in that we can now use those funds for Department of Defense fruits and vegetables. So with the regulation changes requiring the additional fruits and vegetables in our programs, that was a huge pull on the budget. And so by putting a portion of our funds into that, we can save basically what here that you don't have to purchase. And we just upped it because we were doing such a high volume of fruits and vegetables. So that's been very positive for us in regard to that. Otherwise, commodities have changed considerably. They're trying to make sure they're more healthy, meeting regulations. And so we basically get ground beef and some diced chicken, some very healthy proteins is what we choose to spend our funds on that are left from that figure. And this, plain and simple, gives you an idea why then USDA programs are critical to us. If you do the total, you can see we have about 10 million, I guess somebody do the math, in terms of revenue, and where does that revenue come from? And so I've listed for us here claims. That's what we do monthly. We have to submit to PEER, if you will, Child and Adult Nutrition Services there, how many free kids, how many reduced kids, and how many paid kids we serve to receive reimbursement for that. And so this is last year, the total of last year. So $4,691 and $929 were the sum of the claims from last year. Now, up at the top are the reimbursement rates themselves. So for every child who has been, is free eligibility status based on their income and family size, we receive $2.92. Then for every child who would be eligible based on reduced status, again, family size and income, we receive 40 cents from them for lunch, and then reimbursement is $2.52. So you're probably doing the math quickly in your head saying that, oh, well, that's $2.92 for both of those groups then, with that money coming from the individual and then the reimbursement from USDA. And for a paid student, again, not qualifying, we receive 31 cents a meal. So the difference is what do you receive in terms of payment for revenue from those individuals who join us at that status. So I've also had the number of students, and as I said, then the revenue is there for you too, so you can get an idea that all totaled, it becomes very important why we participate with the USDA program. So this, occasionally you'll hear people say, wow, why do you mess with this? Just too much paperwork, whatever. That's a hard sum to come up with. We'd have to double the cost of lunches or other things if we didn't. Then we try to do all the marketing we can. This happens to be the banquet chili feed, of which we participated in this year. So 2 chefs are there and present in their white coats. We were excited that they asked us to join them with the other tables that were there. We were next to the fire department, so that generated a lot of interest, because everyone thinks Firehouse makes the best chili. But anyway, we had a recipe there that happened to be fun, because people came through and they took, as they were taking their portion, they could kind of visit and look, and they were just amazed at what our recipe was for 10,000 servings of chili. And so we did do school chili, so we had a good response. But certainly we're doing newsletters, emails, printed ads, TV, media, nutrition education, things that we do. CT Academy has a class for childcare that comes over every semester and visits with us. And that is because she's working with Kay Bauman in training people to be EAs, if you will, or workers in a child care center. And so we find it mutually beneficial for both of us, because maybe those will be individuals who then will join us with a career choice, or certainly helping her students understand how a program can be implemented and what it looks like in a school district. So we enjoy that. Classrooms, when people like Keith come and we have the opportunity to blitz out, we have some people who can do some presentations. Would you be interested? Whoa, we get all kinds of interest for things from everything from exercise to fruits to vegetables. We had an interesting heart program in terms of information about a healthy heart at a school. We've already mentioned the banquet chili feed. School web pages, obviously, the information that's out there, those kinds of things that we try to make sure, and ways that people know who we are and what's going on. This is an idea of the menus that we do. We have 15 different menus that we're working with every single day. They're all based on a 5-week cycle. That would include infant menus. We have a 0 to 3 months, we have a 3 months to 6 months, a 6 month to 9 months, a 9 month to a year to a toddler, all the way up. And obviously you're trying to dovetail and those kinds of things, but we do have that many menus that are functioning. We do the 5-week menu because of the efficiencies and effectiveness that we're striving for, both labor, you saw meals per man hour in terms of labor, as well as purchasing. How do you know to stay on top of what you need for all these kids on any given day? And so that helps us tremendously with that. And we do bid, and again, efficient use of budget and labor are key to that cycle process and why we do that. Special diets, and then when I mentioned the consulting dietitian earlier, as we evolved with early childhood and more things and kids participating there, as well as our own needs, we have made sure that we have that available. Now, our child nutrition assistant position that's currently open, we are asking for an RD that would be full-time with us. But 600 diets, and that can vary. When I first started some years ago, we had a few diabetic students, but now they manage themselves. And the thing we can do for them is we provide a carbohydrate listing to the nurses, and they can look at each of the daily menus, and when the student comes in, well, what'd you have today and how much to eat, and make their adjustments on insulin. And so that's how we manage that. But we have anything from PKU to gluten-free to intolerances to foods, allergens. Peanut-free we are at the elementary level. Nothing in our food service center contains peanuts, peanut oil, peanut derivatives. So that's why chocolate chip cookies became a no-no, if you will, because we can't get a guarantee that the chocolate chips aren't meant in a factory that does not have peanuts. Now, yes, they have the sanitation process that they all use if they run a different kind of cookie through a system, but we've tried to really stay true to that for our families, and so we function accordingly. A special diet starts out with a medical statement that gets signed by a professional, and that's what kicks off the process. We work closely with Molly and her crew now with the Section 504 requirements, so that we were always giving and sharing diet information so they knew who kids were and what kinds of things would be taking place, but it's even more important with that process. And we do sack lunches for all kinds of things, from students to events, kids that are going to the Washington Pavilion. Lowell's going to take 400 kids in 2 weeks. Starbase is something we work with. It goes out to the Air Guard and Army Guard, and so we send out lunches to them. Catering within district, but teachers, superintendent meetings, donuts for dads, muffins for moms, you name it. We're just always excited when someone thinks of us and calls us, and they do think of us a lot, so we're very pleased, and we appreciate that greatly, that they would think we could be the source that could provide what they might need. With those menus, in addition to the 5-week cycle, we also have food bars at the secondaries, so middle school and high school. And what that means is choices, more choices for entrees. So if you've ever had a 5th grader yourself who moved to 6th grade, or a grandchild, and suddenly their accounts really were getting hit, that's usually the calls in the fall. What are they eating? They are so excited that they can come, and it's like the world is open. Here are 6 choices at noon for them. Everywhere from salad choices, from chef salads, to sandwich choices, to taco bar, Mexican bar, all those kinds of things. So those rotate weekly for them, but they're all options. And a potato bar, I guess I do have those. I should say Keith has those listed for us here, so we can see the kinds of things that kids can pick up. We are always trying to look at the vegan aspect, or what are the other issues where kids can come and pick up what they might want without getting the item that is a concern for them. And so we're getting more and more kids who are trying to avoid certain things, like the meats. Well, what are some non-meat items that we have available? So we try to make sure within our realm and the food bars that something is there and available that kids can find those things. Choices becomes the big deal. We do vendors. We bid. We've always bid, but even more intense than it used to be with some USDA requirements from the state. This just gives you an idea of who some of those companies are that we do bids with. Some of them are contractual for more than a year, but our food bid is a 1-year bid. So that might be of interest to you to see that. And again, bidding with a 5-week cycle, that helps. Vendors are very appreciative of us because we're very accurate. And we hold very true to the value of ethics in purchasing. And so when we go to the trouble of doing the bid and indicating quantities, yes, it's understood that could change, but we will look at velocity reports on a regular basis. We're just doing one now to be able to give them an idea of what we're using or not using, so that we can be as accurate and there's no surprises at the end with product they have left or, oh my gosh, not enough of something. That also means it impacts what we do. I don't have vendors rolling into my office trying to sell stuff in a year because I'm so true to what we've requested on the bid. And if you just do a day of a sample pizza, it can really throw off the count that you may have placed for the bid. And we are just so respectful and try to be so upfront with that. But a place that we do offer all those opportunities is a vendors conference that we have once a year, where all the vendors, whomever wants to have been in during the year or we work with already, can select a time, and we have a couple of days where they come in and show us. I give them a guidance of what I would like to see, because it tends to be, oh, this is a chance to bring in funnel cakes and donuts. I don't need funnel cakes and donuts. We need some entree helps and selections on low-fat items, tasty, kid-friendly, fruits or vegetables, legumes, that nasty word. What are some things and ways they're using beans to help us with that count that we have? There have been some interesting juices that have showed up to help use the vitamin A, or excuse me, dark red, dark green fruits or vegetables mainly in them, kind of thing. So we do that. I have my managers. We invite people in. We have had the Catholic schools last year. We had a city of Sioux Falls there. We've had others that we invite to come in if we're going to do it, and we all have the opportunity to sample, taste, discuss. They have to have their specification sheets and things with them before they come, so we know we're looking at product we can use. Nothing worse than having something wonderful, if you will, and can't be used in the program, because cost sometimes is enough of a surprise. But we do that this year, and we have in the past done taste testing, but we had 14 products this year. So we really hit some elementaries, high schools, and middle schools with taste testing. So that's always fun to help kids help us. What makes the difference? What didn't you like? Just to say, oh, this is good, or this sucks, doesn't help. I need to know what that means, what's not. And it's always interesting. Some of the little kids can tell you, well, it was a little too spicy, or kind of thing. So it's always interesting what they can share with you. And transportation. It takes 12 drivers, 9 routes around the city to do the elementary deliveries. We do have one route driver who does drop off things to the middle schools and high schools, so we have that implemented too. But 22 to 26 drop-offs on a daily basis that are happening. And then site visits are things that we do and are required by us, as in programs with teachers and staff. Now, as we get close to the end here, I wanted to show for you a graph. And so this is breakfast in the classroom for the CEP schools. And so ultimately, we've got a green line is Terry Redland. That was our first one. And we've been able to sustain a 48% increase in breakfast. So the breakfast was the traditional. I come, I go through the line, I get my items, I sit down. Now by having it in the classroom, we were able to increase and sustain those numbers for breakfast. And that is a part of this. The Dairy Council helped us with that, and Mr. Morrison too, in terms of getting the Dairy Council grant that we received for the 3 CEP schools, and also then Cleveland this year, to help us with that. And then Lowell and Hawthorne started at the same time, and you can see Lowell has sustained has had an increase of 52%, and Hawthorne of 32%. Now that means Hawthorne had a lot of breakfast eaters anyway, but we still saw an increase. So that's very exciting when the question is, how successful has it been, and what do we report to the Dairy Council? Did it make a difference in breakfast? Yeah, it has. And then the other information, of course, is from the principals and teachers. That's interesting to know how that's made a difference in their sites. This is Cleveland, who started the first non-CEP school this year, and this shows us that based on what they served as an average for breakfast, this year, at this point, we're up 57.5% in terms of that many more kids are joining us for breakfast. Grab and Go is still out there. It's evolved and changed a little because we have some crowding situations you might be aware of that make it a little hard to set up a cart in a hallway early morning. And so we certainly got into that with the idea, how could we increase the breakfast that we would be serving to kids at the high school level, that they could come, grab something and go, pick up what they need. And so this is just giving you an idea of, did we see an increase? Because again, the Dairy Council helped us at first with this, and then we've also received some additional funding from Molly Satter in terms of a grant that she receives from the state. But what I would share with you is the question, did it make a difference in breakfast counts? And when we look at this, it says it has. Washington, 47% increase, Lincoln, 56%, Roosevelt, 56%, and New Tech, 50%. So those are healthy. The numbers maybe weren't as high. The average was maybe 10 at New Tech, but yet we've increased. So that was the goal that certainly the Dairy Council, as well as we were looking at too, is does that make a difference? Is it an option that's appreciated and used by kids? With that, I would want to thank you for the support that you've provided and continue to support, and I would certainly entertain any questions that you might have.
So that fresh fruit and vegetable program at the 17 elementary, so is that chosen, do those schools choose for themselves if they want to participate, or what the remaining ones that aren't in that program, why are they not?
Because the program itself requires that the site have 40% free or reduced.
Okay.
Now, what's happened in South Dakota is some of the schools participating don't meet that free and reduced rate, but they want to be sure they use the money. USDA is very concerned that if the money's out there, that it get used. And so if they've had schools that didn't choose to apply that met that criteria, then they've let us participate. So we have 2 schools that participate for that.
That are not in that criteria. So 15 do meet it and 2 do not.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Joni, with our enrollments increasing and the adding of the middle school, high school, all of those things, capacity for food service, I mean, how much can you grow in the space that you have with the equipment that you have to meet those enrollment increases?
Oh, I thought one of those addendums was a new mini kitchen attached to each and every site.
That'd be okay. I'd go for that, but I don't know if that was in the bid.
Yeah, for some things, sure. Well, that's always the challenge. I mean, we'll do the best we can with what we have. Space is a concern, obviously, and you can't really prepare things hours earlier. We're trying to do batch cooking for freshness and whatever. So I appreciate that question, because it certainly is the thought process, and what's it going to shake out if there's going to be any kind of adjustments on numbers and buildings and that kind of thing that could make a difference too.
I think the one thing that I keep forgetting is we're not adding a high school and adding like 2,000 kids, like good or bad, those kids are already in our schools, Right. So we're feeding them now. We'll just probably be feeding more over the next few years, but just in a new location. So I think that's helpful when you think about it. I always forget. I'm like, where are we going to get these teachers from? And we already have them. Like, we already have these great resources that are just going to be moved around. So I think obviously there will be some growth in your area for sure, but at least it's not going to be thinking about 2,000 more students than we have now, or something like that.
The food service center is probably the one, quite honestly, if I really prioritize, because they've had the biggest hit from maybe 7,000 total breakfast, lunch, you name it, 20 plus years ago to now, where we're cranking out the 15,000 lunches, breakfast, snacks, all these kinds of programs. And so we're really close. We like each other. We do well on the Gallup survey for that. But we also did have an opportunity for adjustment of things a couple years ago, and that made a tremendous difference for us. So,
when you introduce new menu items, like how do you end up, I guess, reviewing that? You know, because I've got a 5th grader, and chili's his favorite, by the way.
Is it?
So,
okay.
But we always go through the menu and kind of circle or cross out. So, when you do introduce new menu items, do you have a way to, I guess, monitor what's thrown away, what's popular, maybe how many meals you sell that day, that kind of thing? I mean, it sounds like you're very much a numbers game, so.
Yeah, we have all of that very specifically, and that's exactly after our taste testing, where we did a couple thousand kids to get that input in terms of what was rating well. We can still get surprised. We had a breakfast sandwich several years ago that scored off the chart, and then we served it, it was like, whoa, it just dropped. But after that, once we've initiated it and started it, you're exactly right. We do daily counts in terms of every day we can go back and see it. Last time we served it, what was the count? What are the numbers? And we're watching that all the time. We're certainly striving for a certain number every day. It's what we'd like to have. That just means more happy customers.
Right.
But yeah, we sure do that. And some things score a little bit lower. The fish tenders, I mean, that should be no surprise. We intentionally choose to keep that on, though, as a viable food option, that kids understand that fish has a place in the diet. But otherwise, that's exactly what we do. Yeah.
How often do you introduce new items? Like, do you try to do something every school year? Is it, you know, do you have a cycle of when you try to phase things out or move new things in?
Well, typically what we've been using is that vendor conference. Once that's completed and we've done our ratings there, I think we had 40 people, and then with those 2,000 plus kids who taste tested to see where things rated and if they met the specifications and all those things, then we try to see what can we get. We don't say we can only have 2 items. If there's something that really scored well, out of the 14 this year, we had 3 that scored very well. The individual round pizzas have been a huge hit for us. We wanted a new burrito. We got that. So far, so good. But the start of a new year, to answer your question, is typically what we do then. Try to get it right into the menu and get it started. We haven't had to pull anything. We've had to maybe do some tweaking of some things, but otherwise this year so far we've placed has worked very well.
With the new schools being built, are you seeing anything in the industry that is a big change in how lunches are delivered to the students or whatever, that when we're looking to build these new schools that we should be thinking of? Or is it pretty much the same traditional service model to the kids of how big commons area and so forth?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's really the challenge, because certainly when you look across the nation and get an idea of the kinds of things that people are designing and doing, it can sure vary from something that's more even food court is kind of a dated term in terms of food service. But sure, you could see everything that's kind of going to feeling like a bistro, if you will, cafe kind of thing, and little tables and different things is one thing that you do see out there. So that's the challenge for districts, to understand what direction and what kind of ways you can make things feel more like those restaurant, if you have the restaurant feel, that kind of thing. We have kids that are very savvy out eating all kinds of places. We talk about that in our own food choices, how when we know we have students that are going everywhere and dining and having lots of experiences, we want to be something that we consider as an equal, as close as possible to what they get served. And so how does that feel? So really the discussion about cafeterias and what the feel is for them, and what that is, how that is really critical to student participation.
Any other questions? Thank you, Joni. I appreciate
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. I
putting
appreciate
your
all your
Lots of good
report.
information.
I will attest, at Washington High School, Joni had brought over annually with the Principals Advisory Council, and the students would taste test many of those different items and select the things, and those were many of the things then that became part of that menu. And so their appreciation on that, and obviously when they have a choice in some of that, they're much more respectful of what's in the lunch lines. So that was always good. And banquet, the chili feed that they had, or the chili contest over there. I was one of the judges, and in the group of judges that were there this year, one of them had said, God, those are cooks from the school district. I assume that's not the soup they're feeding the students. I said, oh, it absolutely is. I excused myself from the vote on that one, but I was voted, and one of them had put that in his top 3 as far as the chilies there as well. So it was a testament to the work they do.
Yeah, it truly is a numbers game, like I said before. I mean, everything from figuring out how many meals to serve, how many people you need in your staff, how many drivers you need. I mean, it's amazing all that you keep track of, and commend you and your team for doing it.
Thank you. It takes the team, and we really got to work the team, so that's very exciting. So I'm glad that you are aware of that. Acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks.
Since this is a public meeting, we do need to offer anyone wishing to address the board time to do that. I didn't see anyone that had signed up, and I don't see anybody here other than district employees and the board members. So, okay, we've given the time. We will move on to committee reports. Carly, you want to start?
Sure. Calendar committee will start meeting in January and looking at some options for the 2021 calendar, correct? Yeah. Correct. So we have the 1920 out there already. And so far, we've had good weather, so we don't have any changes to make for this year. Policy, we met earlier this week, and we'll have several policies on the next meeting. If I remember correctly, they were all review, revise, no major substantial changes, just kind of updating some language.
Can I piggyback on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
You will see that several of them are from Jeff Kreider, and it's purely coincidence, and we'll make note of that, either Carly and I will during the meeting, that these fell within the normal 5-year cycle of our policy review. But he did take the time to kind of look at them and see, are these truly practices we're doing now, and even made some tweaks to one specifically that, you know, some lessons learned that we learned during the selection process for the high school land. So, but we determined that they weren't any, you know, substantive changes, so we did recommend review, revise. But just know that that's the only way they've just fell in the normal cycle, so questions might arise with that.
And I think we felt like what better time to make changes than when it's fresh, than to wait 6 months and then go back and say, what did we really do, and does this still reflect, you know? So yeah, there's several of them in regards to construction and remodeling and things like that. So, and I have PATH next week, so we'll have an update for that.
Okay. Chamber Board working on getting their legislative agenda together, and then just Chamber Board business. Nothing else that really would apply to us. Budget Committee, we approved the timeline. We'll be approving the budget timeline for Southeast Tech at the meeting later this afternoon. Associated School Boards, we had our delegate assembly middle of last month, I guess. And one change there is when the ASBSD
promotes legislative.
Thank you. Yeah, our lobbyist is the word I'm trying to think of. When he goes out and lobbies for us, they'll be lobbying for 3% or inflation, whichever is greater, on behalf of ASBSD. That's something that we've been trying to get them to change their lobbying efforts for as long as I've been on the board, and we got that change through at the assembly. So pleased with that change. And STI council met, and lots of exciting things going on at STI, of course, with the changes in curriculum, changes in staff that have taken place, so good things going on there. And the STI Policy Committee is going to be meeting next week and going through some policy changes that we haven't made for a while. So those will be coming to us at the, I think, January board meeting for STI. So that's all I've got.
President Alberty is being humble enough. The report I got from ASBSD was at delegate assembly. He had, at delegate assembly, you have to stand up in front of everybody and plead your case. And apparently, I didn't get to see it, but I was told immediately he did a great job. And this is something we've been working on for years. I myself have pled the case, couldn't get it through, and I was told he did a great job. And that's an important feat. Sports Authority is off this month. PTA, I went to the meeting on the 19th. They're struggling with volunteers. They're struggling with, they're kind of battling the booster clubs, so not many people are participating. It was kind of a glum report. Reflections is a yearly event for kids to show off arts and their ability to dance, photography, poetry. There's very few participants. I think that we're just in a lull, and I don't know. I don't have an answer. I didn't have an answer for them. I think it's just one of those things that hopefully some life gets breathed into it. But
Is there any leadership at the state level?
yeah.
Is it the same person?
They've got a new person now,
Okay.
and it's just a hard. I don't want to.
I feel like between booster clubs and also with PTOs.
That's yeah.
There's a
You
big
know.
shift from PTA to PTOs, because PTOs or PTAs, you've got
Dues.
dues.
Yeah.
You have to
that
pay
go to the state.
insurance, and that's a huge chunk of
national.
money.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just kind of the only 4 schools were represented there. So I would say if you're interested in PTAs, please talk to your schools, and maybe it's something we can revisit. It probably either needs to go away or we need to figure out a way to revitalize it.
How many schools in Sioux Falls do we know actually
Still have a PTA.
PTAs?
There's only 10 that have a PTA.
PTA, okay. And that's at any level, right? That's
That's all
elementary.
schools, yeah.
Okay.
And Lincoln's dissolved. I personally tried to revive that and spent 4 hard years begging people to come to a meeting so we could actually have a meeting, and we couldn't keep it afloat. So, unfortunate report, but I promised I might give them a true visual of what's going on. ASBSD Kent talked about, and insurance, I'll
Is that me?
always pass it on to Cynthia.
Thank you. Carly hit calendar, insurance committee. We won't meet this month. We did meet last month, and after the first of the year, we'll probably be looking at all programs and maybe have some announcements on employee benefits. We are on budget. They've done a great job, so numbers look good on the health payments and our fund. So that's all going great there. Sioux Falls Education Foundation, we had a meeting yesterday. They have decided to go forward with an annual signature event, I'd call it, and it will probably be, they're looking at November. We don't have a venue yet, but looking hopefully for a free place that we can have beer and wine, which would eliminate our schools, obviously. And so reaching out to some individuals right now to see if we can find that and then get a date locked down. But that we thought it's after school starts, it's kind of a lull after some sporting in that earlier November before the holidays start is kind of what they were thinking of. And looking to do what's known as a reverse auction, which you sell a limited number of tickets to the event. You come in, it's free food and beer and wine, and then throughout the night your tickets are drawn, and then you're out of the pool. So say that you sell 200 tickets of $100, $20,000. 10,000 goes to the Education Foundation, 10,000 goes to the winner. And throughout the night, people are getting eliminated. Well, then towards the end, you might sell more additional tickets at an auction where you raise some more money, and then, so that's kind of the theme, and no silent auction additional, that's kind of the whole night. And Peer does this through their Discovery Center, and I had Allison Struck reach out to Christy Maher's executive director, and they've had great success. Bob Sut, the key is like the MC, just engaging the community. So we're hoping that will be the big signature event. We will still keep the breakfast, because that's more of an outreach, not a fundraising event. We do get sponsors to pay for the meal, but this will be more of a fundraising event. Affordable housing, we have not met because we still don't have a quorum, so.
Well, we talked about policy, and the only other committee I'm on is Head Start, and the last meeting was on the night of our school board meeting, so I was not able to attend.
All right, anything else to come before the board? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.